In case you haven't joined any of our previous weeks, I'll just do a quick introduction for myself. My name is Laura Zapp, and I am the Cisco account manager who covers the private school market in the state of Michigan. And we at Cisco recently joined forces with the Michigan Association of Private Schools to help build awareness with the private school community on some of the hot topics in technology. As part of the partnership, we're delivering this 6-week webinar series highlighting some of the most important trends. The idea behind the webinar series is that it's not a Cisco commercial. It really is topics that are relevant to you in your day. And I want to quickly thank Angelia and the whole team at MANS for inviting us to present this series. We're looking forward to an extended partnership and a few more activities similar to this that we can bring to you all. Today's webinar is going to take us back to focus on our priorities and the real purpose of our school systems, learning. We're very lucky to have Eric Patnoudes from CDW, one of our Cisco Gold partners, speak today. And I'm going to quickly read a bio on Eric. Eric is a former classroom teacher whose strength is working with curriculum and technology departments to ensure that common goals are identified and pursued responsibly, cohesively, and strategically. Eric has experience as a Microsoft Innovative Educator Trainer and was invited to attend the Microsoft Global Forum in Barcelona as an expert educator. So we're very fortunate to have Eric join us as a guest today. And on that note, I am going to hand it over to Eric.
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you for everyone who jumped on the call today. I know your time is valuable, and I hope to make this hour you spend together with me as meaningful as possible. And I am a former special education teacher and instructional technologist in a one-to-one high school district. And I am part of a new team here at CDW that consists of educators, CTOs, administrators, reading specialists, you name it. We have folks who've participated in all the different aspects of a classroom and a district to support this schools that we work with who partner with us so that when they are purchasing technology, that they're getting the most out of that investment in terms of meaningful and authentic integration of technology. And so as we get started here, I love starting out with this image of these children in a classroom from the 40s. You notice here that it's your traditional classroom, right? Students are facing forward. They're all sitting in rows. The teacher is at the front of the class. It's more than likely your didactic method where she's controlling all the discourse in the classroom, deciding who gets to talk and when they're talking. And then a district, you fast forward 70 or 80 years into the future, and a district will pass a bond or possibly get some grant money, and then our classroom completely transforms to look like this. And as you can see, our classrooms haven't changed a whole lot in the last 80 years, even with all this technology, even with all the devices. Not a whole lot has really changed to this point. And that's what I really want to focus on today is that CDW obviously has a great reputation for getting you the what, right? The devices, all the stuff, the hardware, the infrastructure. We can talk devices until the sun goes down. But the thing about the devices, though, is that unless teachers are able to use the technology in ways that provide opportunities that didn't otherwise exist in the classroom previous to technology, the technology doesn't really matter. You could give your students a $3,000 laptop. You could have NASA-grade wireless in your school. You could, have access to every, app on the planet. But if teachers don't change the way that they teach when technology is in the classroom, none of it's going to really matter, to be honest. And so CDW is, as you know, a forward-thinking company who's on the cutting edge of technology and knows, you know, the K-12 technology landscape. They realized very quickly that the device is not having the impact that districts are looking for. So they put together a team of educators. And you can see here, like I mentioned, our team of educators consists of chief technology officers and principals and IT director. We also have some former K-12 account managers who are now learning environment advisors and can talk about Office 365 and Google Apps for Education. And, you know, we're here to help districts. We're here to provide that holistic support as districts are implementing technology. One of the first projects that I worked on was not about devices. It wasn't about apps or technology at all, to be honest. It was going and looking at what a lot of the research says about successful implementations. And I can tell you there was very little talk in the research about the device. It was about creating a culture for change, you know, that principals are one of the most important stakeholders in a school district to increase the adoption of technology, to create a culture where risk-taking is encouraged and that teachers feel safe and secure in taking risks, that when they take risks, that they have the opportunity to fail and that they can learn from those mistakes and continue moving forward. I can tell you not only from schools that I've worked in, but also schools that I work with at CDW. I work with schools from anywhere of, you know, 300 students to over 300,000 students. And I definitely have, over the last year, I've kind of created my top 10 list of the districts who are really knocking it out of the park. And the one common denominator that all of those districts have is an extremely strong leadership that is the champion of change. That does not mean that the superintendent and the principal are the most tech-savvy or proficient people in the world, but that they have a very good grasp on the direction that education is going and the importance of preparing students for this world that they're going into, where they're going to, you know, I'm sure in education you hear this all the time about there's all these jobs that our kids are going to have someday that don't even exist yet, right? But I think it's even more than just the job. Our kids are going into a world where we have to prepare them for jobs that don't exist yet, to solve problems that don't exist yet, using technology that hasn't been invented yet. And in order to prepare them for that world, there's an awful lot that we need to do that has absolutely nothing to do with the device. So I want to first tell you a story that I think exemplifies what I'm talking about here. There's a movie coming out called Spare Parts. George Lopez is the actor. Jamie Lee Curtis and a couple other people you probably know are in the film. And it's about this class of these 4 boys here from Arizona and their teacher, Freddie Lavardi, who on Twitter, his handle is @FalconMaster. And these 4 boys were undocumented. They lived on food stamps. They spoke English as a second language. And they came to their teacher, they came to Freddie and said, we want to enter this underwater robotics competition. And, you know, these weren't the 4 strongest students that this teacher had ever seen. And he was, you know, in the back of his mind, a little skeptical. But he said, yeah, okay, fine, let's do that. That's great. You guys are interested in something. Let's enter an underwater robotics competition. So long story short, these kids won the underwater robotics competition, and they beat MIT. Not only did they win it, but they beat our country's top universities in technology. They beat Virginia Tech, Georgia Tech, and most importantly, they beat MIT. And so I had the pleasure of listening to Freddie's keynote and meeting Freddie in California at the California Education Technology Professionals Association conference. And so Freddie's giving this amazing keynote. It's an hour-long keynote at a technology conference about this inspiring story, the kind that any educator sits there and listens to and just they get goosebumps and chills up their spine, and they want to run back to their school and change the world. And throughout this entire hour-long inspirational story, not once did this teacher mention Office 365 or Google Apps for Education. He didn't mention apps. He didn't mention laptops or devices that can be both a laptop and a tablet. He didn't mention tablets. He didn't mention any technology. He didn't mention Web 2.0 tools. He didn't mention anything that the vast majority of education technology conferences are about. When you walk through the halls and you see all that stuff, it wasn't about any of that. It wasn't about an LMS. The thing that Freddie talked about was that modern problem-solving skills and an authentic purpose for learning were addictive to these students. There's no app, there's no platform that can create a modern problem-solving skill and an authentic purpose for learning. Teachers do that. Teachers who have been empowered with professional development to think differently about their role in the classroom when they have 30 kids sitting in front of them with devices. And so it brings me to this image then of this is one of my favorite images I've ever found on Twitter. And so think about this for a minute in the context of what we're talking about. Every couple of months, you could probably replace that word marker with some app that's been out. A couple of years ago, it was Prezi. Everybody was so bored and so tired of PowerPoint that everyone started using Prezi. And then our students, at least the students that I've worked with, maybe the students are different in your district, but a lot of students these days, when they do a PowerPoint presentation, what do a lot of kids do? They put an entire paragraph, right? I'm sure everyone's seen this at least once, where the kids put an entire and you've probably seen some adults do it in meetings or in teacher institutes, but they put an entire paragraph on a PowerPoint slide, and then they read right off of the slide. And then we teach them how to use Prezi, and then they read an entire paragraph right off of Prezi. And really the only difference is that the Prezi is zooming in and out and spinning around and making everybody sick, but the kid still has really poor presentation skills. And I think that is a great example of losing our focus, becoming too concerned with the technology, and losing sight on the fact that the kid cannot communicate his message or her message effectively in front of an audience. I can give a great presentation with a poster board, and our students should be able to do that too. And so in making this transition that schools have been going through over the last couple of years, I think curriculum plays a crucial role in this process. And what you see here is, I guess, three different phases. And the top there is your traditional logic. Well, there's a curriculum department, and then there's your technology department, and they're both doing their own things. And when curriculum is bringing things to technology, Technology is trying to decide, do they want to approve this and add it to the network? Educators oftentimes don't realize what that the amount of work that entails for the technology department. Technology departments oftentimes don't understand why teachers need all of this technology, when a lot of times the technology gets brought in and a couple of people use it, and then it's just kind of fades away over time. They're supporting all this technology that's no longer being utilized. Then there's your transitional logic, where you're seeing some schools start to head down this path where curriculum and technology are working together to some degree. Maybe the curriculum department has teachers come in over the summer and they write curriculum, and then at the end of the curriculum writing, they ask the instructional technologist to, hey, can you share some cool websites or some cool apps with us for our curriculum? We'd really like to plug that into the curriculum document. And while that's a start, it's certainly not enough to increase the adoption of technology. And then there's your transformational logic, where curriculum and technology are one and the same. It's like Chris Lehman says, in education that technology should be like oxygen, ubiquitous, necessary, and invisible. And there really is, for school districts who have access to technology, who have access to internet, there is no such thing as technology as an add-on. It really is the new normal. This is the new way of operating. When you look at the Common Core State Standards, there's no technology standards. There's your ELA standards, and there isn't a second additional set of just technology standards. But if you dig deep into those ELA standards, you'll see that technology standards are embedded right within the Common Core. If you want to move students down the path of engagement, of true engagement, it comes down to active knowledge making. And so that's what I really want to get into then is the affordances of technology. These, in my opinion, should be the drivers of technology adoption in a district, right? The device is the last part, in my view. It's the last decision to make, right? The first decision to make is, why are we doing this? Right? If your school or your district, if we can't sit down and have a conversation, a deep intellectual conversation about why are we integrating technology, why are we purchasing technology, what are the types of opportunities that we want to provide for students, and I use this image to kind of make that point, right? We're not buying technology for kids because we want them to make prezzies or start blogs, to design, to make videos or use Edmodo or interactive whiteboards or develop apps, right? That's not why we're purchasing technology for kids. We're purchasing technology for kids because we want to raise awareness. We want them to raise awareness. We want them to start conversations. We want them to ask questions, right? The internet is full of answers, and it's full of garbage too. But the internet doesn't have questions. If our students can't ask questions, having access to the internet means absolutely nothing. We want them to create partnerships. We want them to change people's minds. We want them to make a difference in the world. These are the things that students literally have an opportunity to do with technology in their hands. There's a lot of, in math class, we make up a lot of fake problems for kids to solve, and I think there's a lot of real problems in the world that need to be solved. Why are we making up fake ones? Give students an authentic purpose for learning, just like Freddie said with those kids who beat MIT. That's what gets kids excited about going to school. And then you give them a tool like a laptop to solve some problems. You give them a tool to raise awareness. You give them a tool to start conversations. And those kids they're going to be coming back to school ready to learn, excited about what they're doing, asking teachers how do they get better. And so let's get into some of these affordances of technology and what I mean by these. So this is all based on the work of Dr. William Cope and Mary Calancis. There's actually a great e-learning course that you can find online. And if you want, I can share that information with you later. It actually was, I finished graduate school last year. I got a master's in curriculum, technology, and education reform. And Dr. Cope was one of my professors, and he actually ran one of my courses as a MOOC, as a massive open online course at the same time that I was taking it as a graduate student. So the point is, though, that these affordances of technology was one of these courses, and it was hands down the best course I took when I was in graduate school. And I think if I was still in a school and I was doing professional development with teachers, I absolutely would use the content from this course in the MOOC with the teachers. So one of the affordances of technology that I think is important to consider and use as the deciding factor for technology is that we want to provide ubiquitous opportunities for learning with students, right? Change our perspective, change our lens through which we're putting the priority on technology, right? We're not purchasing technology because X device is the latest and greatest and this is what everybody else is doing. We as a district, as a school, as educators, we want to provide ubiquitous opportunities for learning. So what does that mean, right? So it's the idea that learning extends beyond the walls of the classroom. I was working with a Spanish teacher who wanted to give her students an opportunity to respond anywhere, anytime. And so she would tweet her students questions in Spanish, and they had to respond in Spanish, and that was part of their homework. There was kids who were doing this at work. There were kids who were doing this on the bus on the way home from school, while they were watching their siblings. That anywhere, anytime access. The teacher would ask students to go out and find an image of something that they enjoy doing, and then tweet about it in Spanish, right? The kids could learn literally anywhere, and it wasn't about having to learn something specific, but go out and find something that interests you, share a picture about it on Twitter, and then talk about it in Spanish, right? Anywhere, anytime access to learning. I think this ubiquitous access is also, it's part of what we often talk about in education is wanting to produce lifelong learners. Lifelong learners are people who are inquisitive, people who are curious, people who want to continue to grow in their career, in their personal lives, and having ubiquitous access is an essential part of that. I can't tell you how many times, and my wife, it drives my wife crazy because we'll be having a conversation and something will come up that we're not sure about, and I'll be like, I'll just pull out my phone and be like, oh, well, here, let's just look it up really quick, and then we get the answer, and you can continue that conversation. And so, while there's a time and a place to put away the technology, the answer to just about any question is right in our pockets today, and that should be the reason why we want to provide technology for kids. And what I think you'll notice is as I go through these, if we make these affordances of technology the drivers behind our decisions, it makes that technology choice or the device choice a much easier decision. When you put it at the end of your priority list, the decision becomes much easier. So active knowledge making was something that I had touched on. I guess this would be a non-example of active knowledge making. Well, sometimes it can be anyway. When you think about like the flipped classroom, right, another big trend in education, there are certainly educators out there who are doing this in a way where students are actively making knowledge. But there are an awful lot of educators who are also basically just digitizing their lecture. and then having the kids watch it on their computer at home. And the thing that there's a problem with is that it's a passive experience, right? Kids are still consuming the information rather than actively making new knowledge. One way that this is being done is through a shift in our pedagogy. So project-based learning, problem-based learning, inquiry-based learning are all great ways for students to actively make that knowledge. Project-based learning is not let's lecture about the Civil War for a week, take a test, and then the students do a project, right? Project-based learning is where the learning happens throughout the course of the project, and there's multiple formative assessments built in, and students are producing a product at the end of this. But again, the emphasis being on the learning taking place during the project, not the project happens at the end after a test. The only way that happens, though, is by providing professional development for teachers on project-based learning, providing them with the support to make this pedagogical shift, to take them away from the front of the class. They no longer need to be the Google in the classroom, right? The students, again, if we're getting our students to ask good questions, the teacher doesn't need to be the Google in the classroom. The teacher needs to ask a really profound question that could garner a variety of different answers, right? If you have students do a project and you get 30 of the exact same product, it's not a project, that's a recipe, right? There's no reason why all 30 kids should be coming up with the exact same conclusion. So shifting in our instruction so that it is an active knowledge-making experience creates much deeper learning. It creates higher retention and better comprehension of the concepts. And so one way that people are doing this is 20 time or Genius Hour, 20% time. If you're not familiar with it, I encourage you to look up Genius Hour. There's a great resource from Joy Kerr, who she's created a live binder full of Genius Hour content. For those of you who may not be familiar with 20% time, it was born out of Google. They give their employees 20% of their time to work on projects that they're really interested in, and some of their greatest innovations were born out of this Genius Hour. So basically, at one point, Google was just a search engine, and they didn't have Gmail. So there was a couple of engineers who were sitting around and said, here's all the things I don't like about email. I bet we could make a better email. And so these engineers got together during their 20% time, and lo and behold, that's how. So a great example of active knowledge making is providing students with some time in the class to explore things that they're interested in, provide them with the opportunity to learn about things that they intrinsically are motivated to learn about and things that they care about. So there's definitely not enough time. I could do an entire session on 20 time or Genius Hour, but I shared a link there in the chat if you want to check that out. There's great resources in that live binder. But again, keeping the focus on we want to provide teachers with the opportunity to make active knowledge making a regular practice in the classroom. How can we do that for our teachers? Well, technology affords that opportunity for teachers. That's the thought process. That's the perspective that needs to change in making decisions about technology. Multimodal learning, I'm going to go through some of these last couple of things kind of quick. But multimodal learning basically talks about the need for well, not necessarily need. Let me rephrase that. It talks about when students work with multiple modes of meeting, it creates again, greater retention, deeper learning, better comprehension. When they're working with video, when they're working with images, when they're working with text, not only from a consumption perspective, but also from a production perspective, that when they're writing a blog post and they have to decide when to add a hyperlink and how does that hyperlink help support the stance that they're taking on an issue or the message that they're trying to convey to their audience. Why are they including this video in this part of the paragraph? Why are they including these images? It's all a big part of telling stories today or taking a stance, is knowing when to use these different modes of communication. And so it's beneficial in both from a consumption perspective, but also a production perspective. Another example here is recursive feedback. I think in many ways this is going to become a new form of assessment. And I don't necessarily mean for standardized tests, but assessment in the sense that students, not students, teachers rather, can do a lot more assessment for learning rather than of learning due to the affordances of technology. Well, I know I can speak from experience as a teacher. I would try to do bell ringers or tickets out the door. And if you taught high school, you had 150 tickets out the door to go through and try to figure out which students needed which information or how to change my instruction the next day so they understood the content better. That was impossible. It's impossible to check 150 pieces of paper. But when you have technology, and you can get that information in the form of a graph or a pie chart, and you can see, like, in the snap of a finger, how many students get it, how many students don't, and where to focus your attention. That is really powerful as a teacher. That is an example of why we need technology in the classroom, right? We want to provide timely feedback for students so that that loop of learning and feedback can go on a regular basis. So next one, collaborative intelligence. So this gets into some of that project-based or problem-based learning where students are working together, and you have 4 students, and maybe one of them is kind of your artsy student. Another one's great at writing. One is more of a creative thinker, and another one is a problem solver, or maybe more of a math kid or an analytical kid. When you put all of those different skills together in one group, it can be really hard for those people to work together. Or if they have soft skills and communication skills, they can accomplish some really amazing things. And it's very much like the world that our kids are going into. They're going to work in a world where they have a specialty, and they're going to need to work with other people who also have a specialty. And that's where that need for soft skills comes in. I realize that our model of education was built kind of in this factory model to prepare people for the Industrial Revolution, and we wanted to produce mass amounts of people with a relatively the same skill set, but that's not the world that we live in anymore, and it's certainly not the world that our kids are going into. So providing opportunities for students to leverage their collaborative intelligence is going to prepare them for this world. And again, that as the driver, that we're going to focus professional development so that teachers understand this concept of collaborative intelligence and how much it means to students. And then how does technology facilitate those learning opportunities for these types of collaborative intelligence activities to take place? Technology is the enabler of so much. It's not the driver of things to be. Differentiated learning is something that has always been a goal of educators, and another example where technology does this better than we could have done in the past. I wish I was in a room and I could see by a raise of hands how many people have ever used Khan Academy. And then the question I ask is, well, how many people have ever signed up as a coach on Khan Academy? And nearly almost every time, all the hands go down. I would use Khan Academy how do I want to put this? I challenge you to use Khan Academy and not use the videos, and tell me that it isn't one of the most powerful tools in education today. Don't even use the videos for Khan Academy. When you sign up as a coach, you can have all of your students join your class. You can give them a level set test to find out exactly where all of your students are on their math competencies. And then you can assign them math concepts that are according to their math skills, and you get real-time data and feedback on your students. It'll tell you how often they're doing practice problems. It'll tell you how long they're spending doing practice problems. It will tell you where your students are, what problems for them to practice on. It's adaptive, and it basically does essentially the same thing that a lot of programs do today that cost tens of thousands of dollars. Khan Academy does for free. Now, again, I realize there's a lot of debate around Khan Academy and the strategies that he uses in the videos, or the way that he teaches math. Maybe some people don't agree with. That's where I say forget the videos about Khan Academy. Don't even use the videos. Sign up as a coach, get the real-time data and feedback, and you'll be amazed at your ability to differentiate instruction. So to close things out, there's two more quotes or thoughts I want to leave you with, and this one is one that I feel like I could have started the presentation with this and ended with this, and saved everybody an hour of time. This is what it all boils down to, in my opinion. Unless you get instructional design right, technology can only increase the speed and certainty of failure. It does not matter what device you purchase for your district if you're not going to help teachers get instructional design right. The other part of this is just as important for teachers as it is for students. The ability to learn, unlearn, and relearn on a regular basis is going to be a skill that every person needs to have as we move forward and as technology continues to increase exponentially. So there is a link down here with a tiny URL that has some information about our team of educators. My goal really is to demonstrate to you all today that CDW, while we have a reputation of getting you the stuff, we can also talk about why and why it matters. And when you're going to invest millions of taxpayers' dollars into infrastructure and devices, that we can help you implement it in a way where teachers are adopting the technology and it's creating more meaningful and authentic learning experiences for students. So I appreciate your time today. Hopefully you found this beneficial. There are a couple minutes left that I wanted to save just in case there were questions. You can find me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is @NoAppForPedagogy. Feel free to reach out and ask me a question. I can share tons of resources. I can connect you with lots of different people who, if I can't answer your question, I can definitely connect you with people who can.
In the meantime, I will quickly thank you for your time and thank everyone out there for taking the time out of your day to participate. Eric, you can sense your passion in the delivery, and I definitely got a lot out of it, and I hope the educators on the phone did as well. As is normal, I will send out a recorded link to the presentation. I will send out a PDF copy of the presentation. So the links that Eric has provided in the presentation, you'll have access to those. I will also be sending out that all-important survey in order for you to get credit for professional development. You'll have to respond to the survey before March 31st. As I've mentioned previously, if you're in a group setting, please make sure to email either me or Angelia Salas so that we can get all of the participants to survey so that everyone can get credit. And I'll kind of open it up again. I do see a chat here. Let me see if we have a question. Oh, that's Eric with his.
Yeah.
Eric, I'm going to take your link. And I will put the links that Eric is providing in the email that I send out as well. And you'll also be able to get it from the recorded version of the website, or of the webinar. I apologize. With that, I will just give a quick plug for next week. Well, actually, next week we're off, so don't join us next week. But the following week, we're going to wrap up the series on March 24th with a session focused on determining when technology makes an impact on student learning and when it doesn't. So another really powerful session. I will open it up one last time for questions. I'm going to take everybody off mute, and hopefully here we won't hurt our ears. Okay, on that note, okay, Eric, we do have a question.
Okay.
Do you have suggested training to get our teachers started?
Yeah. I wish it was as easy as just like here's a link to a training. I will share really quick that e-learning course that I was talking about that was part of my graduate program. I feel like that's a great place to start. The other thing I would say is it depends on if you're talking about training or if you're talking about professional development. Remember I said training is like that user manual, and professional development is the teaching strategies. If you're talking about training, Google and Microsoft both have a ton of free resources online for the training aspect. How to leverage, how to use the technology, how to operate it. And if you're talking about professional development, though, I can't stress, how valuable Twitter has been for me in my own professional growth, in being able to connect with other educators and move my, I guess just my views and my practice in the right direction. I just found the link for the YouTube course I was talking about. So those are that's a link to all of the videos that are in the course. If you've ever done professional development, one of the most time-consuming parts of doing professional development is creating content for teachers to work with. There's a list of 38 videos that are all about everything that I just talked about ubiquitous learning, about active knowledge making, about multimodal learning, recursive feedback. So all of those, it's all videos about the why. Like, why does technology matter? How do we change the view through which, we're making these decisions? And then there's one more playlist that I'll share with everybody. And this is a playlist of videos that I've compiled over the course of my career that have really shaped my views about education. There's 37 videos in this one. They're all on YouTube. Some are short, some are long, but definitely a good place to start in changing mindsets and changing perspectives.
Eric, thank you very much. Well, again, everyone, thank you. I will send this information out. You've got Eric's contact information. You have my contact information. The team at CDW, while obviously we are all in the business of sales, you can tell that we really have some solid people that care about the students. So I urge you to reach out to Eric, and if you have any questions. And with that, we'll let you get back to your day. I'll see you in a couple of weeks. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye now.